Good afternoon. Thank y'all for being here today as we provide an update on the state's response to what is currently Tropical Storm Helene. GEMA Homeland Security is actively monitoring Tropical Storm Helene's forecast and working with state and local partners to ensure that resources are available where needed. We have pre-positioned response teams and equipment to quickly address emergencies as they arise. I can't thank Governor Kemp enough for his quick action in response again to this storm. They have issued a state of emergency for all Georgia counties. That makes the state resources available to all local governments and entities within the storm's potential impacted area. It also authorizes Motor Carrier Compliance Division and allows the commercial motor vehicles that are responding with hurricane efforts to bypass wait and inspection centers to quickly transport supplies as needed. This also authorizes us to call up to 500 guardsmen and women to respond as needed to the emergencies. Our logistical team is finalizing services and fueling our state fleet of generators, is beginning to field resource requests to all local counties as those resource requests come in. The Georgia Department of Public Safety is working in close collaboration with local law enforcement, emergency services, GEMA, GDOT, and other state agencies to ensure coordinated monitoring of roadways for debris, flooding, and other hazards. Currently, you'll see troopers out engaged in clearing interstates and major roadways for abandoned vehicles to ensure that those evacuating areas can do so safely. You can also find additional information and updates via our social medias at Georgia EMA HS and our website at gema.georgia.gov. We'll also have a list of all the other agencies there. Helene is expected to intensify quickly to a major hurricane tomorrow morning and become a major hurricane, a Category 3 or stronger, by Thursday. Helene is expected to make landfall as a major hurricane in Florida Thursday evening. Certainly our thoughts and prayers are with those along the coast. We want to keep them in mind, and if any of them are evacuating north, they're certainly welcome into Georgia, and we'll be as hospitable as we can be. Heavy rainfall will begin across Georgia as soon as Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Heavier rain will start to overspread the state throughout the day and on Thursday. The heaviest impacts for us will be in southern Georgia, and we expect those to enter the state early with heavy rain and strong wind. This storm is very different than we just had with Hurricane Debbie. If you remember just recently, Hurricane Debbie was a very slow, heavy rain event. This is going to be a fast-moving wind event with rain, and so we anticipate a very different response. We'll see a lot of impacts a lot further north. The main impacts across north and central Georgia are expected to be as early as Friday morning and leave that area Friday afternoon. There are significant impacts across Georgia. We're looking at hurricane force winds within a 50-mile radius of I-75 south of Macon, and then tropical storm force winds possibly statewide. If you remember back in the early 90s, a hurricane Opal, we had those significant wind events all the way up into the North Georgia mountains. This is another opportunity to experience that. We fully anticipate widespread power outages from a significant number of downed trees and power lines all throughout the state. Rainfall totals are expected to be 4 to 8 inches statewide, with higher totals possible in the North Georgia mountains, leading to the threat of flash flooding. As with all of these storms, the further it tracks west, the eastern side of it will spin off a lot of tornadoes. So we do anticipate tornadoes in eastern parts of Georgia, but obviously anywhere that the storm passes, that is also a possibility. We don't expect significant storm surge. However, depending on the timing, if it's around high tide, we could see some flooding levels similar to Hurricane Irma back in 2017. As mentioned, this is going to be a significant wind event. The wind field is expected to be quite large, over 300 miles wide as the forecast, with the tropical storm winds extending well over 100 miles from the center of the track. How can you prepare now? We encourage you to begin to review your emergency preparation kits. This includes having a family emergency plan. It's extremely important to secure your home against wind and water. The old saying in emergency response is you run from water, you hide from wind. This is a situation where it's going to be a statewide wind event. So being sure that you've boarded windows and prepared your home for debris flying around is extremely important. The storm is predicted to produce winds that are going to drop power lines, trees, so making sure that your emergency kit allows you to be safe for up to 72 hours is extremely important. In most of our storms, we have generalized locations where we can bring in resources within the state. Unfortunately, because this is a statewide event, we fully anticipate that our resources are going to be scattered all throughout the state, so we've started reaching out through what's called EMAC, the Emergency Management Association Compact, so that we can bring in state partners from other states and resources as needed. It's extremely important that you realize that takes time, though. So if you lose your power, water goes out, it's not going to be a quick turnaround because we're having major outages statewide. Make sure you have a charged mobile device and you have a backup power source ready. We strongly advise the public to avoid non-essential travel as the storm approaches. Follow your evacuation orders from local authorities and stay informed. Please stay indoors during these high winds and keep away from windows and doors. We encourage you to turn on your weather alerts. I know we all like to turn off those alerts that we hate to hear in the middle of the night. Well, unfortunately, a lot of this storm is going to impact Georgia in the middle of the night. So we would ask that you have those weather alerts on. Every family should have multiple methods to receive severe weather alerts, including at least one with an audible alert to wake you should this occur in your area in the middle of the night. There are many options for staying in touch of the changing conditions. NOAA Weather Radio. They issue watches and warnings by the National Weather Service, and they air these over their radios. Your county alert system. Some counties use outdoor warning sirens, others use telephone notifications. So contact your local EM if you're unsure of which warning system they use. Obviously, tune into your local television station, your trusted sources. You help us get the message out. And so make sure they stay tuned into you. The Emergency Alert System, or EAS system. Smartphone applications. There are a lot of free or paid-for applications that you can utilize that will send you warnings. A lot of those use GPS, so they'll notify you of area-specific warnings. And then wireless emergency alerts, or WEAs, that we will send out, or other authorized state agencies will send out, and those are specific to areas. It will notify you the category and time and the agency that's issuing it. And you don't have to apply or have a particular app for that. In conclusion, our recommendation is that you remain poised like we are and prepare now as we get ready to issue any orders and deploy resources when needed. We're here for both protecting our state, but also assisting our neighboring states. Florida's going to get hit hard. Our friends to the west in Alabama are going to receive a lot of damage, and this thing's going to continue north into Tennessee. So we stand ready to assist. Please continue to closely monitor developments from the National Hurricane Center and forecast updates from your local National Weather Service and reliable media outlets. And for more details, again, you can visit our website. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Can you talk a little bit about what the outlying counties may expect, especially by the coast, or where the hardest areas that people should start moving inland, or people who are not in the storm's path to maybe evacuate to Atlanta, and what the message is for that group?
I don't think there's anywhere in the state that's not going to experience some type of impact. I mean, this is one of those rare instances where I believe all 159 counties will receive some type of impact. Because it is coming in from South Georgia, I don't think we're going to see the impacts at the coast that we would from a landfall event there that came directly from the Atlantic. Again, we'll see some, depending on the tide. If it's low tide, I don't think we're going to see much flooding at all. I mean, we've all been to Savannah. We've all been down on the coast. They get flooding on beautiful days. So some localized flooding is probably expected. But I think for us, unfortunately, Lowndes County and that area that was hit during Hurricane Debbie, they're fixing to get round two. So if you've got friends and family in that area, we would recommend if they want to get out, again, now's the time to do that, I think. But The width of this storm, the expected speed of the storm, that's something I failed to mention. This is going to be a very fast-moving storm. Debbie moved 3-4 miles per hour. This one's looking to be in that 15 to 18 mile per hour range. So it'll be a rapidly moving storm, but I think to run from the coast or get away from that, I wouldn't be so concerned about that. Central Georgia is going to take the direct hit from it.
Joe Ripley, 11 Alive News. Can you talk about the costs of not preparing? If you're not taking this seriously, what are the costs of not heeding your words of wisdom?
I think one of my favorite statements I've ever heard in emergency management is the only thing more costly and difficult than preparing for the disaster is trying to stand in front of y'all and explain why we didn't. And so right now is the time to prepare. We've got so many resources in the state. We've got so many opportunities to get out there. We've got shelters that will be standing up. We've got localities. We've got a lot of information online. We've got so many things that's out there for the public. You have to make a conscious decision not to prepare with all the resources I think that are available. We've called in all our not-for-profit organizations. We understand the magnitude of this storm. We get that Debbie was very impactful. It was a rain event. For those counties that were hit, it was terrible for those counties. This is going to be on a statewide impact. I see this being a much different scenario, a much more expensive storm than what Hurricane Debbie was going to be. The amount of debris that we're anticipating, this storm's going to give us several hours of rain prior to us getting a lot of the wind, so we're going to get saturated ground. Therefore, a lot of the trees are going to fall, and of course with trees falling, that blocks roadways, that takes down power lines. So you said the cost. I think for the individual, it's not very wise to not prepare. You know, we try to be very careful when we put out these warnings. We don't want to share so many warnings that folks become immune to the warning, but I hope they take this one very serious.
Joy Dukes with Fox 5. Can you kind of share more perspective on what 15 to 18 mile per hour winds feel like? As I know you compared Debbie and the 3 to 4 mile per hour winds.
Well, and it's not. Yeah, so that the 3 mile per hour was the forward movement of the storm. So this storm, if you think about walking, me and you can walk at 3 to 5 miles per hour very comfortably. And so however long it would take you to walk across your county, that's how long it took for Hurricane Debbie to walk across your county. This storm's moving at 18 miles an hour. On a good day, I'm not sure I can run 18 miles an hour. And so that's going to move the storm much quicker through an area. Now, the winds are hurricane level winds, so we're talking 110 miles an hour minimum to have that Category 1 status. And so as those winds are moving, the storm's going to get to you quicker because of that forward progression, but it's also spinning at a Category 1 speed. And so because of that forward progression, it's going to take those Category 1 winds much further into the state. So we lost category status at maybe Lowndes, Brooks area during Hurricane Debbie. We're anticipating seeing Category 1 winds possibly as high as Macon because it's going to be moving further faster.
When we think about getting to that Macon area and getting there pretty quickly, like you just said, a lot of us here in North Georgia haven't gotten to see something like this for quite some time. So how do these counties prepare for this, and what would you be encouraging a lot of those local agencies that you're in touch with now to do?
Yeah, so we're preparing messaging out there to say, you know, you haven't experienced this in a while. Now, Georgia is traditionally a tornado state. We know we get a lot more tornadoes than we do landfall hurricanes. So widespread tornado outbreaks are nothing new. So we've seen that, but to have a tornado essentially that's 60 miles wide, that's not something North Georgia deals with on a regular. So we're just encouraging them to message early that you need to shelter in place, you need to stay away from those windows, you need to listen to those caution messages. Our team here, Ms. Kristen and our external affairs team are putting out notices constantly. All our state agency partners are also messaging that. But we'll have shelters in place, but we would ask everybody across the state, once the storm gets to you, you need to shelter in place. It is not safe to be out. It's extremely dangerous. As we've seen through some of these storms, The impacts of what limbs and rocks and debris can do to somebody. Unfortunately, the majority of our loss of life during these events are trees falling on cars and things of that nature. And if we can keep folks indoors, yes, we did have a young man die in Hurricane Debbie as a tree fell on his home, and our hearts are broken over that. But the majority of our deaths we've seen have been vehicle-related incidents that are out in the storm. So we would just tell everybody, shelter in place inside those secure locations. If you've got a basement, that's even better. If you've got friends with a basement, go visit. Take some lunch and hang out together through the storm. It's extremely important that we as Georgians remember to help Georgians out. Be good neighbors during this time. And so if you have a way to help your neighbor out, be a good neighbor. We're all going through this together, and so that's extremely important. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.